Yeah, I don't blame you. It's hard to put your own team in a successful position.
Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see if that happens because we're going up to Group K, which I've called Red Bull Rival Group. We've got Atlanta, we've got DC, and we've got Santos. Give me locations. Give me new signings.
All right, Atlanta versus DC is going to be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Atlanta versus Santos is going to be also at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And DC versus Santos is going to be at Audi Field in DC. So two home games for Atlanta, one for DC, none for Santos. In terms of big signings for winter 2022, for Atlanta, I've gone for Bartosz Slisz from Legia Warsaw. For DC, maybe a little bit of a stretch. I know I have some bias here. I think he's a really good player, but I've gone for Aaron Herrera coming over from Montreal. I'm sure there's plenty of people who would say that's not a big signing, but I do think he's one of the better fullbacks in the league. So I think getting him was a good signing. And then for Santos, I've gone for Santiago Nunez, coming over from Estudiantes. In terms of big signings for summer 2024, nothing for Atlanta so far, but they have a lot of money, so who knows? Something could happen. For DC, a little bit of a stretch here, but they did spend like 1.85 million euros on I think, left back to bring in David Schnegg from Sturm Graz. And then for Santos, I've gone for Jose Juan Macias, who came over from Chivas.
Yeah, so $50 million for Atlanta. There are rumors that Florian Balogun was sitting in the stands during their win against Columbus last night. Gio Reyna Atlanta is the front page of MLSsoccer.com.
Get all the USMNT stars
I
here.
mean, hook it to my veins, right? And now we get to put on our conspiracy hat and be like, oh well, Arthur Blank paid X amount of money for the USMNT training facility in Atlanta, so now they're rewarding him by giving him some of our men's national team players for his MLS team. And everything's all connected and conspiracy, and we need to tear it all down and start over. And if MLS exists by 2026, we will never be a real footballing nation. Blow it up.
I think you
Did I
hit
hit it on
all
the
your
head? I feel
I
like I
think
did
you hit all your bullet points.
good. All right, so let's start with the worst of the worst, and that would be Atlanta. The worst team in this tournament for sure. They've got $50 million that they're just sitting on. They haven't even tried to bring in reinforcement yet. Like what a small club mentality, you know? Currently 12th in the playoff race, 2 points off of the line. Actually, no, they are ninth now, 1 point above the line after last night's game. Caretaker manager Rob Valentino does have his work cut out for him. He's got to be frustrated because even without those stars, the Giacomakis and the Almadas, he's still got talent to be competitive here. And they're in an easier group than they were last time. I believe they had Cruz Azul and Miami last time, which was tough. But they're going to be looking for their first Leagues Cup win. So talk to me about who you are watching and if I missed anything about the Atlanta splurge, if you want to add on there, because you have a little bit of knowledge on that team.
Yeah, there's I don't know if I'm remembering the name right. I think it's Moranchuk from
Yeah.
Atalanta, who's rumored to come over as well. I've seen heavy links there. Makes sense. They basically have the same name, so I'm surprised there's not a club link between the two of them. That's a huge missed opportunity. Uh,
Marketing team, step it up.
no, seriously, yeah. But yeah, that's one of the rumored signings I've heard about. I think nothing confirmed yet. I think they might still be going back and forth on a fee, but potentially could come over. But my player to watch for Atlanta is going to be Daniel Rios, who I believe was formerly with Charlotte, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he went down
Um,
to Liga MX for a little bit, didn't he?
yeah, he's only on loan here. He is still with Liga MX, but he's been fantastic since he's come over. Obviously, we sold Yakimakis, but even if he was here, he was so on and off the field with injuries. It was hard to get some consistent game time. So you needed a strong backup striker, and we do have Jamal Tayer, who was an option at backup striker, and he's done a decent job. He's got 5 goals in 700 minutes, but Rios has been fantastic since coming in for us. And I think he has been a huge part in keeping this team remotely in the playoff chase. He's got 6 goals, 3 assists in 985 minutes. He has completely claimed that striker spot for himself. And I think he's done a really good job of stepping up with us losing Almada and Yakimakis. There was going to be huge question marks on this attack. So I want to see if he's going to be able to continue that form in the Leagues Cup because this is a very, I want to say, doable group for Atlanta in terms of getting out of the group. So need him to continue that form.
Player to watch for me is Saba Lobjanidze. You've got a couple of players, as you mentioned, Daniel Rios, who goes in there. You've got Zonde Silva at times and TRA, but for the most part, the guy who's going to be pulling the strings there is going to be Sava Lobjanidze. He gets on the ball. He does a little bit of the creative work. Does the hard work from the bit that I saw. Lots of really good running, lots of really good pressing, but I think the focus is going to be on him to be a bigger provider than he has been in recent games for Atlanta, because they just don't have anybody left. So it'll be very interesting to see what they can do.
He's actually been much better in recent games. I think he's been picking up some form since we got rid of Almada and Giacomakis.
Keeping it at that level is going to be important for him, for sure. Team that's going to need to focus on more than one player, DC United. The Scum are second team in this group, and first-year man Troy Lesesne has them kind of right in the thick of things at the moment. Currently sitting on 26 points. They are in 13th, but they're only 2 points out of the playoff spot. It's very, very tight at the bottom. They're relying heavily on big man Benteke. I believe he's on 16 goals, and the next closest is 3. So if you're talking about a one-man show, it's Christian Benteke, and it's everybody else. They're going to need to create something a little bit more than just him to go decently far in this tournament. And they're looking to get past the first round after they lost to Philly on PKs last year, a common theme with this Philadelphia side. Who are you watching?
So I went with Benteke because he is my version of Giacomo Vrioni, where every time I put him in my fantasy team, he blanks. Like literally, even double game weeks, I put him in 4 points at the end of the double game weeks. It's insane. Or a red card. He did get a red card for one double game week. So because there's no Leagues Cup fantasy, I'm assuming Benteke is about to pop off and go absolutely nuts this Leagues Cup. And with that in mind, he's gonna be crushing it for DC. But no, I think you summed it up pretty well when you were talking about how he has 16 goals and the next closest is 3. This attack is all relying through him. And if he's not on his game, then DC is going to be, in my opinion, I think they're going to be dead in the water, or it's going to be a very uphill battle if he's not on his game.
Yeah, absolutely. And my player to keep an eye on, it builds off of that, right? As we mentioned, Benteke is massive. Next closest person is 3. That person is Christian Dejome, and 2 of his 3 came in the same game. He's also a yellow card magnet. Fun fact. I think he's got like 8 as a
wing 9 now.
Yeah, unbelievable. So somebody's got to step up. Jared Stroud's been doing all right. Dejome's been doing all right. I mean, he had one game where he broke out a little bit, but they just need to create something more. And that was Troy Lesesne's problem with our group too, was we just never could find the right combination of who's going to support this cast. And DC's in the same boat. So that I'm watching to see, really what I'm watching to see is who steps up into the next role and is that like second focus player. And I've picked Dejome for that. Let's go on to the Liga MX side then. It's Santos, but not that Santos, the other Santos, Santos Laguna, not the Neymar Santos. Liga MX side currently sits 16th in the Apertura and 15th in the Clausura last season. The new man in charge, Ignacio Ambriz, is trying to turn this ship around, but he doesn't really have a lot to work with. Santos is also looking for its first ever Leagues Cup win. Who are you watching?
So I cannot pick an attacker for this team, considering they have 1 goal in 4 games. That's insane. Like, did Frank de Boer secretly take over this team? I don't understand. So I have gone with someone that I mentioned before, Santiago Nunez, the Argentine who came over from Estudiantes in, I think, winter 2024. Hopefully I got that right. That's based off Transfer Market, so if it's wrong, don't blame me. But his defensive numbers in the that like scouting report on FBref, insane. Like his last 365 days, it's off. Like his lowest percentile is Ariel's 1, and it's 88th percentile. Like he has been, at least numbers wise, really strong in center backs. The team still has conceded 6 and 4, which is not great, but at the same time, not the worst. And like I said before, I can't pick an attacker when they've scored 1 goal.
Yep, I was on the same wavelength there in terms of where I was looking. 1 goal in 3 games, minus 13 goal differential in the Clausura, with only 15 goals scored. They're going to need to tighten things up in the back, and that is going to fall on captain and goalkeeper Carlos Acevedo. He's going to have to be massive for Santos if they want to have any hope at getting their first Leagues Cup win. Right now, again, small sample size, but he does have the 4th highest PSXG plus minus in the Apertura. And that means he's going to need to keep that up if they want to have a shot against Benteke and Lobjanidze and Daniel Rios and co. The benefit for them is that this realistically isn't the strongest attacking group they could have been put up there. So they have a chance if they can, as we've talked about, just kind of hold out and make it nasty and win the mental game and the physical game. They've got a chance to get out of this group in 2 games. So what are your predictions for this?
I'm probably going to regret doing this, but I've got Atlanta at 1. I like their ability to find ways to get results right now, even though we did have a rough stretch. And I talked about that when we were previewing the Columbus game with Krooniverse. But clearly, I think we saw from the game from Columbus last night, they have ways to just get results. And I think there are certain guys stepping up right now, like Rios and Saba, that I like to keep that. I favor to keep that form going into this tournament. I've got DC at 2. I think I'm expecting to see a good Benteke. And I think with that in mind, it's going to be really hard to contain him, both for Atlanta and for Santos. I know he's kind of a one man team right now, and he has to step up if DC is going to get anything out of this tournament. But I think he will do enough to put them through. And then I've got Santos at 3rd. I mean, you can't go through if you're not scoring goals. I know you talked about you could be scrappy and play the mental game and all that stuff, but it's a lot of ifs for a team that is just not scoring, has 1 goal in 4 games. I think they're in bad form, and I don't see that form getting better just because they're playing 2 okay to bad MLS sides.
I will balance out your jinx, and I will tell you that I have DC at 1 because I think that even relying on Benteke alone, he will still be able to carry them at the very least against the Santos defense. And then from there, I think they have a decent result after that. It's after the group stage that I think they start to have trouble, but I think they get out of the group here. I then have Santos in 2nd and Atlanta in 3rd. Don't ask me why. Might just
You're
be
a
vibes.
hater. Because you're a hater.
Yeah, it very well might be. I do think that now I know Atlanta did just pick up a pretty important win there, but their string of games where they're dropping results late in games and not getting results against teams they should kind of is going to carry a negative mindset there, and that will hurt them with caretaker manager and not a lot of depth. And I don't know. I can keep going on for days, but Atlanta in the mud, like.
I mean, they've been in better form the last 2 game weeks. They got a point against NYC.
No, they lost a point against NYC. They lost 2 points against NYC. That's where you got to phrase that. They were up 2-0.
I know.
Yeah, but, so that's not getting a point. That's losing 2. And that's what I'm talking about.
They went up 2-0 early.
But that's what I'm talking about is the mentality of not being able to hold on to games and
okay. Well, they
being able to
just held on to a game against Columbus.
Yes, where they needed a center back to score twice.
Okay, it doesn't matter. I don't care how we win as long as you get the win. Like Columbus was literally like before the midweek game, they were the hottest team in the league, literally bar none, like destroying people. They went to LAFC and beat them 5-1. So I think they're seeing a little bit better momentum going into Leagues Cup than the stretch they were on before that point, which I agree was really bad. They were looking terrible.
They were terrible. Not looking, they were. Don't sugarcoat it.